This is All India Radio. In the program Insights, now we bring you a discussion on India elected to 3 bodies of United Nations Economic and Social Council. The participants are Atul Aneja, International Affairs Expert, and Manash Pratim Bhuyan, Journalist.
India has been elected to the UN Statistical Commission for a tenure of 4 years in a very keenly contested election where China was also one of the contenders. So India's election to the UN Statistical Commission is seen as a very significant victory, and as the country has returned to the World Organization's highest statistical body after a gap of 2 decades. Mr. Aneja, how do you see India's election to the UN Statistical Commission and 2 other prestigious UN subsidiary bodies?
It's obvious, Manash, that India's footprint in the United Nations is increasing. And frankly, this is just natural, commensurate with the rise of India and India's influence globally. I would anticipate that there will be more bodies in the United Nations system and other multilateral organizations where India's profile is likely to increase. This is a reflection of a historical trend which is going on. And if you recall, India was also the non-permanent member of the UN Security Council not so long ago. There was a UN Security Council session on terrorism which took place in Mumbai and New Delhi last year. So you can see that India's engagement with the UN and UN bodies has been expanded, as is India's pitch to be a permanent member of the UN Security Council. But I think with India's rising clout, especially in the post-COVID era, I think the time has arrived and the world is recognizing it, that India's profile in world bodies, I think it's just inevitable that it's going to grow. And what happened yesterday when India became part of these 3 organizations within the ECOSOC is just a reflection of the rise of India.
So in the highly competitive election for membership of the UN Statistical Commission, Mr. Aneja, India secured an overwhelming 46 votes out of total 53, so which was conducted as part of a secret ballot. And the other contestants in the election was South Korea, United Arab Emirates, and China. And South Korea became the 2nd member of the UN Statistical Council. But the number of votes that India secured, 46 out of 53, is very, very significant, considering China was also part of the contest, and then China could not become a member of the UN Statistical Council. How do you see it?
Manash, I'm not really surprised because it's because of the image of India along with its growing economic power. If you recall, India has contributed troops to so many conflict zones in the developing countries under the UN peacekeeping flag and has done remarkably well in that. So it's earned a goodwill of many countries across the globe. And if you recall, post-COVID, during the COVID crisis itself, the way India went and distributed vaccines and medicines all over the world, especially to developing countries, and in fact became known as the pharmacy of the world. I mean, India's image of a country which played a very critical and a non-partisan role during humanitarian disasters has created a certain image of India. And you recall even recently when the Turkish earthquake took place, the way the Indian disaster relief organizations went and manfully helped people in the disaster zone. I mean, these are not directly related to this election, but there's a certain image of India as a non-partisan country which goes all out to help people, especially in the time of need. I think that all gets reflected finally in which people start voting for India. We are not a bullying power. We have not got those kind of disputes with countries across. We have, of course, with Pakistan and with China, but generally we are not seen as a country which throws its weight around. I think that gets reflected finally in which the rest of the world perceives us. I think it's a very encouraging sign what you said, Manash, the number of votes, 46 compared to what the Chinese got and others. It's an eye-opener in a way. And I think great encouragement for India to go stand the course, do what it's doing right now, and continue forward. And I'm sure if we pursue this approach of people-oriented approach, irrespective of the countries and religions, etc., I think it's a matter of time before India is recognized as a country which needs to be there in the UN Security Council. It's been an aspiration of India for quite some time, but one can see upsurge, constituency building across the world to make that happen. So I think it's a stepping stone towards something much bigger, and we should take heart out of the way other countries have voted to get us into this statistical organization.
Because the UN Statistical Commission is considered one of the topmost UN bodies Yes, it was established in 1947 and considered to be the highest body of global statistical systems, bringing together the chief statisticians from member states from around the world. And as we know, it is the highest decision-making body for international statistical activities, and it is responsible for setting statistical standards and the development of concepts and methods, including their implementation at the national and international levels. So as a member of the UN Statistical Commission, what kind of role, Mr. Aneja, India can play in improving the global statistical data bank?
Well, India has domestic expertise big time, and I'm sure that quality of talent, and given India's experience in stats, we are a huge, massive country. Our experience with statistics of various kinds, look at the sample size we deal with, whatever surveys we may do. So there is great reservoir of talent which can be deployed in leadership roles when it comes to other countries. So I think given India's own challenges and experiences and dealing with them in a statistical and objective manner, I mean, the whole Indian experience in 5-year plan systems, we're just masters of the statistical domain. Along with that comes the digital part as well. So I think we are very well positioned to set standards and to share our experience, as in other fields, with the rest of the world, especially in those corners where these fields are not so developed. And I think what the Prime Minister has also been stating is that India's real constituency is the developing world. So introducing these concepts, the best practices in statistics, especially in the global south, I think that will be India's contribution when it serves on this body for the next few years.
Mr. Aneja, India was also elected by the UN Economic and Social Council to the Commission on the Narcotic Drugs and the Program Coordinating Board of the Joint UN Program. So how do you see India's election to the Commission on Narcotic Drugs?
I think that's another very, very vital field, Manash. Drugs, and there's a commercial angle to it. India itself has become a victim of the transfer of drugs coming across the border from Pakistan, the use of drones over there, and our border states are getting impacted from there. So we are countering that, all dimensions of drugs. So there's a personal experience which has been gained, either it's in the northeast, whether it's Punjab, border states, etc. I think that is something which is going to come in handy. Our capacity to combat drugs, especially flowing along routes from Asia to Europe. I think we have that body of experience as well. And I think demonstration of political will here. Our Home Minister Amit Shah has been saying that this is time for a drug-free India. So the focus on narcotics has intensified in India. And we do all this in a cost-effective manner, which is again, as I said, it's the global south. And these are the experiences we can share with them so that there is a global campaign against narcotics and drugs, which is, as we all know, decimating societies and lives of young people. And I think, again, over here, there is one thing to share the experience, but I think as India gets more exposed to the global side of the trade through this body, there will be something more to learn, from the world on best practices. I think it's going to be beneficial for India in its internal fight as well against drugs and psychotropic substances.
Mr. Aneja, because the Commission on Narcotic Drugs supervises the application of international drug control treaties among the member nations, and India has been flagging concerns about possible consignments of transportation of drugs from Afghanistan to various countries in the region, along with export of terrorism from the Afghan soil. So it has been a concern for various countries in the region and countries in the Central Asia as well as India. They have been focusing on the issue of ways to contain transport of drugs from Afghanistan after it failed to the Taliban. So do you think, as a member of the Commission on the Narcotic Drugs, India can play some role in containing the transportation and shipment of drugs in the Southeast Asian region?
Manash, you are absolutely spot on. When you say the linkage of drugs trade, it's not just how it impacts population, but how it then feeds into terror and global terrorism. I think that is a very big menace as well, which flows, and gun running as well. It's a trilogy which happens with drugs, and I think one area where India can play a big role is on the financial side, how to cut the financial linkages which allow this ecosystem to flourish. I think that's one area where India would have experience and have something to share with the rest of the world. And as I said, Manash, that now India is at a stage of playing a global role. You're going to play an international role. So these are vital experiences which are coming India's way, which will then be leveraged to play a role not only within our country but across the region and maybe beyond. I suspect, and I think this, the financial side of it. India has been a big supporter of FATF, and it has been able to influence because of its own domain knowledge in this field. And I think that will be one area which, apart from others, apart from the policing side of it, apart from counter-terror, where India would be able to play a role beyond its own borders and regionally. And again, that would strengthen India's case for a permanent seat in the UN Security Council in the long run. I think it's all feeding into a big grand objective.
One more broader question, India now chairing the G20 and India is now chairing the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, another influential body for us. India just completed a tenure at the UN Security Council and this India's election to these three key UN bodies. So how do you see India's global profile? In fact, it is changing a lot. India is being heard very seriously at the global forums. So how do you see India navigating various global challenges, helping the global community to deal with challenges facing various countries in the world, particularly the global south? India has been actually pitching the agenda of the global south, the problems, the concerns of the global south. How do you see India playing a much more bigger role in the coming years in addressing various global challenges?
Manash, the Prime Minister had said that any kind of adversity brings with it great opportunities as well. The world is in a flux right now. We are looking at the post-COVID era. And there, if you see on the economic side, the rest of the world is sinking. India is one of the bright spots. And after the Ukraine and Russia war, India has not been that strongly impacted because of a certain foreign policy which we were pursuing and an independent mindedness. So the world has started looking for leadership from India after the advent of COVID. And I think India very self-consciously is going whole hog to occupy a space where it can play a meaningful, influential and a humanitarian and a good role in the international system. I think that partial vacuum has emerged and India is filling it. And then you mentioned there are avenues which are coming in India's way. SCO is coming in. So that would mean, India, China, Pakistan, Russia, very importantly, all the Central Asian countries. That is a constituency with which, India also has a lot of geocultural traction. So that's one channel which opens up. The G20 is the world's 20 big economies. And that's where India can provide its own imprint on best practices, right from health to climate change, lifestyle to environment to economy. And these are the meetings which are taking place right now in India, are looking at each segment of issues which impact not just one country or another, but entire humanity. So I think post-COVID, India is nicely fitting into it, speaking out where it needs to, not taking partisan position, independent foreign policy. I think that's what's going to take India forward. And frankly, the next months and years are going to be exceptionally exciting because there will be people who will, as we grow with the countries, and people who will try to pull us down, both domestically and from the outside. And it will have its own challenges. But I think it's a massive opportunity, and if we get our act together and we stay focused and also go ahead with a positive narrative irrespective of the negativity which comes along, I think it's a once in a lifetime kind of opportunity to come our way. The context is there. Now it's up to India. It's already doing a great job, but I think to push forward even more strongly to occupy its genuine space in the international arena.
Thank you, Mr. Aneja, for your detailed perspective about India's election to three UN bodies as well as India's rising global profile. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Manash.
You were listening to a discussion on India elected to three bodies of United Nations Economic and Social Council. The participants were Atul Aneja, International Affairs Expert, and Manash Pratim Bhuyan, Journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsdtalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 9289094044.